falling apart right in front of us, and now we're seeing desperate moves. Commanders fans, what's happening in Ashburn right now is historic, but not in the way we hoped. We've got a defensive coordinator publicly admitting his job's on the line, a head coach getting support from the enemy, and trade rumors that could shape our entire future. You think this is all coincidence? I'm telling you it's not. This is the result of decisions that have pushed us to the edge, and what happens this Sunday against Detroit could change everything. If you thought Jaden's injury was the worst thing that could happen, wait till you hear what's coming. Stick around till the end, because the third story might be the most explosive of them all. After weeks of watching this defense collapse like a house of cards, after getting shredded game after game, after hearing excuse after excuse, we finally got a move. Joe Witt Jr. is coming down from the booth to the sideline to call plays against the Lions. And you know what's the most telling part of all this? His own words. "I've got to do a better job," that's what he said. But here's the part that should really worry you. We've got to turn this around right now. You hear that? Right now. Not we're working on it. Not we'll get better. Right now. That's the language of a man who knows he's out of time. Let me tell you something. When a defensive coordinator publicly admits that the big plays we're giving up are coming from mistakes that just shouldn't happen, that's not humility, that's a confession. We're talking about a guy who spent years working with Dan Quinn in Dallas, who has the full trust of the head coach, and still he's feeling the heat. And you know what's the most frustrating part? This should have happened weeks ago. We've been watching the same movie all season, opposing offenses doing whatever they want, players out of position, broken communication, no in-game adjustments. And now, right when we're about to face the best offense in the league, the Detroit Lions, who are coming for revenge after what we did to them in the playoffs, now we decide to make changes. But here's the question no one is asking. Why did the players ask for this change? Because yeah, Witt said it was his decision, but he also mentioned it was at the request of his players. You get what that means? The players basically told their coordinator, "We need you down here because this ain't working." I think this is more than just a tactical adjustment. This is an admission that the current system has failed. When your own defense is asking you to change how you operate, when you have to leave the comfort of the booth to be in the trenches with them, that tells you everything you need to know about where we're at. And now I ask you, do you think Dan Quinn would have allowed this from just any coordinator? Let's be real, the only reason Witt still has a job is because of his personal relationship with Quinn. Any other coordinator with these numbers would already be updating their resume. We're giving up over 400 yards a game, our pass rush is non-existent, and our secondary is like Swiss cheese. The numbers don't lie, fam. We're at the bottom of the league in pretty much every major defensive category. And while the Cowboys are dealing with their own meltdown, while the Eagles are running the division, while the Giants, well, the Giants are being the Giants, we're over here making last-minute changes and hoping for a miracle. But you know what's the craziest part? Witt is right about one thing. The communication is broken. It's not just about being in the booth or on the sideline. It's about having a plan, executing it, and making the right adjustments during the game, not after we've already given up 40 points. It's about recognizing when Geno Smith is torching you and doing something about it in the moment, not in the post-game presser. Now I'm telling you, this move has to work. There is no plan B. No more excuses. If we bring Witt down to the sideline and we're still seeing the same busted coverages, the same communication breakdowns, the same explosive plays, then Dan Quinn is going to have to make a decision he probably doesn't want to make. Because keeping a coordinator around just because you're friends when your season is going down the drain isn't loyalty, it's negligence. And against the Lions, of all teams. Against Jared Goff, who knows us like the back of his hand. Against Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's out for revenge. Against an offense averaging over 30 points a game. This is not the time to be experimenting with your coaching structure, but here we are. The truth is this, Joe Witt Jr. just confirmed what we all suspected. This defense is in crisis, the communication is broken, and we're making desperate changes hoping for miracle results. Will it work? I think it's too little, too late. But I hope I'm wrong, because if I'm not, this season is about to get a whole lot worse before it gets better. And if that shocked you, wait till you hear this. Because while our defensive coordinator is owning up to his mistakes, someone else is speaking up about Dan Quinn. And you won't believe who it is. You thought things couldn't get any weirder? Buckle up, because Dan Campbell, the head coach of the Detroit Lions, the team coming to Northwest Stadium this Sunday looking for payback after what we did to them in the playoffs, just came out publicly defending Dan Quinn. Yeah, you heard that right. The same Dan Campbell who lost to us in the divisional round, who watched his dream season end in our house, is now saying Quinn shouldn't feel guilty about Jaden Daniels' injury. And you know what? That's making me rethink a lot of things. You can't question that in hindsight, those were Campbell's exact words. They were trying to get him in rhythm, in flow. It's hard to question that. I feel for him, but I don't think he should feel that way. It's not his fault. Let me tell you something. When your rival, the guy who's about to try and destroy you this Sunday, comes out and defends you publicly, that means one of two things. Either you're so pathetic that even your enemy feels sorry for you, or there's some coach code the rest of us don't understand. And honestly, I don't know which one is worse. Because let's be clear about something. Yes, it was Quinn's fault. We were down by 30 points to Seattle. The game was over. There was no reason, and no valid reason, for Jaden Daniels to still be on that field in the fourth quarter. Getting him in rhythm? Rhythm for what? For a miracle comeback? For risking our franchise quarterback in a game that was already lost? But here's the interesting part. Campbell mentioned that Daniels had just come back from an injury. And he's right about that. Jaden had been out, and we were trying to build some momentum before the bye week. But that's the issue, fam. A good coach knows when to cut their losses. A great coach protects their most valuable player above all else. And you know what Campbell's defense tells me? That he probably would have done the same thing. That in the heat of the moment, with the pressure of a collapsing season, with the desperate need to find something positive, Quinn made a decision that felt reasonable at the time, but turned out to be a disaster. Now I ask you, does that make him less responsible? Because understanding why someone did something and excusing it are two very different things. Quinn's been down all week, according to reports. He looks defeated in pressers. And while Campbell says he shouldn't feel that way, the truth is, he should. Because that decision might have ended the season for our rookie quarterback, the future of this franchise. But here's what really worries me. Campbell also said something else. He said you can't be indecisive after something like this. That letting this creep into your coaching on game days is a recipe for disaster. And that, fam, that's what's been on my mind all week. What if Quinn is letting this affect his coaching? What if the guilt, the pressure, the weight of Jaden's injury is clouding his judgment? Because let's be honest, the decisions we've seen this season haven't exactly been brilliant. Keeping Wood in the booth for this long. Not making any moves at the trade deadline. Roster management. Everything feels reactive instead of proactive. And while the Cowboys are imploding with Jerry Jones doing Jerry Jones things, while the Eagles are building a monster with Jalen Hurts, while the Giants are, well, being the Giants, we're over here getting sympathy from our rivals. Do you understand how humiliating that is? I think Campbell is being genuine. I think he really does feel for Quinn because he knows what it's like to be in that spot. But I also think there's a part of him thinking, this guy is mentally broken, and we're going to take advantage of that on Sunday. Because that's how this league works, fam. The NFL doesn't forgive weakness. The most frustrating part of all this is that Campbell is right about one thing. Injuries are part of the game. They're violent, they're unpredictable, and they can happen at any time. But there's a huge difference between an injury that happens in the normal course of play and one that happens because your coach left you out there when you shouldn't have been. And you know what's the most ironic part? Campbell is coming to Northwest Stadium this Sunday with a full, healthy squad, hungry for revenge. While we're here without Jaden, with a defense in shambles, with a head coach getting emotional support from his rival. How do you think that game's going to end? Now I'm telling you, Campbell's advice is solid. Quinn needs to stop wallowing in guilt. He needs to be decisive, be strong, lead this team out of the hole we're in. But here's the million-dollar question. Can he do it? Does he have the mental toughness to push through this and move forward? Because if he doesn't, then it doesn't matter how many changes we make with Witt. It doesn't matter who's playing quarterback. This season is already lost. The truth is, Dan Campbell just exposed something a lot of us already suspected. Dan Quinn is mentally broken. And while Campbell says don't feel bad, the truth is Quinn needs to feel bad. He needs to use that guilt as fuel to never make the same mistake again. Because if he doesn't, if he lets this paralyze him, then the Lions are going to do exactly what they came here to do, destroy us in our own house. But that's nothing compared to what's next. Because while we're dealing with coaching meltdowns and injuries, there are rumors swirling about a trade that could completely change the future of this franchise. And just when you thought we were done with the bombshells, here comes this. Bleacher Report just linked the Washington Commanders to a massive trade for Brian Thomas Jr., the wide receiver from the Jacksonville Jaguars who used to be Jaden Daniels' teammate at LSU. And fam, this is exactly the kind of move that could either save us or completely sink us. First, let's lay it all out. Brian Thomas Jr. isn't just some random receiver. This dude had a monster rookie season. He was part of that historic LSU offense with Jaden when they won the Heisman. The chemistry between them is real, it's proven, it's undeniable. If there's one receiver in the entire NFL that Jaden knows like the back of their hand, it's Brian Thomas Jr. But here comes the big but, and it's a but the size of FedEx Field. At what cost? Mo Moton from Bleacher Report says Thomas might be expendable for the Jaguars after they traded for Jacoby Myers. He says multiple teams would be willing to give up a first-rounder and more for him. And that's the problem, fam. We don't have a second-round pick because of the Laramie Tunsil trade. We don't have a fourth-rounder because of Marshawn Lattimore. And now we're talking about giving up a first-rounder for a receiver? Let me tell you this, Adam Peters already pushed all his chips in this offseason with those two trades. And look where we are. Tunsil's been solid, but not the game-changer we hoped for. Lattimore came in hurt and has barely played. And now we're about to do the same thing with Thomas? Keep mortgaging our future for short-term fixes that aren't working? Because let's be brutally honest, we've got holes everywhere. Linebacker? A mess. Edge rusher? Non-existent. Secondary? A sieve. Offensive line? Needs help. And we're about to use premium draft capital on a wide receiver when we already have Terry McLaurin, just drafted Luke McCaffrey, and have like 47 other positions that need help? But here's what's tearing me in half, fam. Because on one hand, logic says this is insane. We can't keep trading picks. We need to build through the draft like normal teams. Peters needs to step away from the trade table and focus on organic development. But on the other hand, imagine Jaden Daniels throwing to Brian Thomas Jr. Imagine that LSU connection in Burgundy and Gold. Imagine having a receiver who knows how Jaden thinks, who can anticipate his moves, who has that unteachable chemistry. That's tempting, I won't lie. And you know what's even crazier? Thomas is having a rough second year. His numbers are down. The Jaguars are in a mess. This would be the perfect time to buy low on a talent we know is special. Because Thomas didn't just forget how to play football overnight. He's dealing with confidence issues, a dysfunctional offense, and a quarterback who's not even Trevor Lawrence half the time. Now I ask you, is it worth the risk? Because this isn't like trading for some aging vet. Thomas is 23 years old. He's in year 2. If it works, we've got a decade of elite production. If it doesn't, we just threw away another first-round pick for nothing. And here's the context no one is talking about. We've got $84 million in projected cap space for next offseason. That's huge. We could trade for Thomas, extend him, and still have room to fix other spots. But only if we don't give away all our picks in the process. Look at what the Eagles did. They built through the draft, made smart free agency moves, and now they're running the division. The Cowboys? They're paying the price for years of bad drafting and dumb contracts. The Giants? They don't even know what they're doing. And us? We're stuck in this weird limbo between rebuilding and win now that's clearly not working. I think the idea of bringing in Thomas is romantic but dangerous. It's the kind of move fans would love to see. Reuniting the LSU duo. Jaden and Brian back together. The highlight reels would write themselves. But the truth is, we need more than just a receiver. We need a whole defense. We need depth on the O-line. We need playmakers on both sides of the ball. And you know what worries me most? If this season had gone differently, if Jaden wasn't hurt, if we were sitting at 7-2 instead of 2-7, then maybe this trade would make sense. But we're in crisis mode, fam. We're not one player away from contending, we're one full offseason away from being relevant again. The most frustrating part is that Thomas would be perfect for us. The fit is obvious. The talent is real. The connection with Jaden is proven. But the timing is terrible. Because if we make this trade now, we're admitting we're still in win-now mode when we clearly should be in retool mode. Now I'm telling you, Peters has to resist the temptation. He's got to learn from the Tunsil and Lattimore. He's got to build the right way, through the draft, developing young talent, making smart free agency moves. Because if we keep trading picks for quick fixes, we're going to end up like the Rams after their Super Bowl, no picks, no future, and stuck in salary cap hell. But if the Jaguars really make him available, if the price drops, if we can get him for something reasonable, then maybe, just maybe, it's worth considering. Because having Jaden and Thomas together for the next decade could be special. It could be the foundation of something big. The truth is this, Brian Thomas Jr. to the Commanders is the kind of rumor that makes fans dream. It's exciting, it makes sense on paper, and the connection with Jaden is undeniable. But it's also exactly the kind of move that could bury us even deeper in the hole we're already in. And after this season, after everything that's gone wrong, can we really afford another swing and miss? So there you have it, fam. A coordinator admitting his job's on the line. A head coach getting emotional support from his rival. And a trade rumor that could define our future. Crisis. Compassion. Speculation. What do you think? Should we have made this move weeks ago? Is Campbell right to defend Quinn, or is it just coach-to-coach sympathy? And should we go all in for Brian Thomas Jr., or focus on building through the draft? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I need to know what the nation is thinking. Do you still believe in this coaching staff? Do you think we can compete with the Lions this Sunday? Or are you already thinking about the 2026 draft? And if you made it this far, if you stuck with me through all this madness, then you are the real Commanders Nation. You're the family that doesn't jump ship when things get rough. So do me a favor, hit like if you believe we can turn this defense around. Subscribe if you want to see Brian Thomas Jr. in Burgundy and Gold. And share this with every Commanders fan you know, because we need to stay united in these tough times. This is more than just a YouTube channel, fam. This is a community. This is where real Commanders fans come to speak truth, to debate, to suffer together, and eventually, to celebrate together. Because these dark times won't last forever. And when we finally rise back to the top, I want all of you here with me. See you in the next video with more analysis, more news, and more truths no one else is willing to say. Stay strong, Commanders Nation. And remember, hail to the Redskins!